It's been nearly 2 years since I reviewed a mobile controller. That is a controller made specifically for mobile gaming, attach your cell phone and go type of situation. Now we are returning to a new one from Gamesir, the X2 Pro. The first X2 I really liked, but there were a couple things that stopped me from declaring it as my favorite, but it was so damn close. It didn't have a D-pad was one thing, instead it was using buttons like a Joy-Con, and also the face buttons had the Nintendo button layout, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it could cause some issues. Now at the same time, if what you were playing allowed you to reconfigure the buttons, that was fine, but the problem was not everything I wanted to use for it allowed buttons to be changed, so you were stuck with that, backwards Nintendo layout. Now, from what I understand, that controller was designed for a specific Nintendo emulator, so I guess that stuff made sense for that use case, but as it wasn't being clearly advertised that way, I felt it was important to let people know which controller I preferred and why, with all types of gaming in mind. Now, that controller, it was fairly comfortable to me and had a nice build quality, but those two little issues just made it not, as exciting for me to use. I wound up sticking to the Razer Kishi at the time, which wasn't quite as comfortable to me, but it did have the edge. So now with the X2 Pro, it seems like they've addressed those concerns I had. They've been rectified and some new additions have been made. But let's find out if it's actually worth a damn for your mobile gaming needs. So I do like how this thing came packaged. It has a decent little case to keep it all in and all the documentation you need to figure things out, but it is fairly straightforward. You also get a 1-month Game Pass voucher. It also comes with 2 sets of analog stick covers, a concave and convex set, which is nice, as these covers also do widen the tops of the sticks a bit, as they are fairly small, and the analog sticks do use genuine Alps parts. So the controller looks very similar to the first one, but now it's designed for Xbox. But if you preferred that Nintendo layout, that's not a problem here. The face buttons are actually attached with magnets and can be swapped around. And this is not just aesthetics. Like, you could swap the programming in the Gamesir app to actually change it to fit the button layout that you choose. Nice touch in my opinion, and really does solve that initial problem that I had with the original controller. The magnets, they hold nicely, and never did it feel like they were going to fall off or come loose or, anything. Like, I didn't feel like I was going to accidentally remove them. And also, another big plus, we now have an actual D-pad instead of just buttons. Always, I always have to have a D-pad. Even if it's not used all the time, no buttons, D-pad. Don't do that to me. That's why I don't like the Joy-Cons too much. Now, you also have the addition of 2 back buttons that are easily programmable. The back of the controller, it has some nice rubber grip butt cheeks, which I find comfortable to grab onto for the most part. The shoulder button triggers are analog Hall effect triggers, which perform nicely. They do have that analog, going on there, so that's cool if a game uses it anyway. And I almost forgot, the bottom of the controller, it does have a USB-C port for pass-through charging to your phone if you need to use it. This attachment here, the X2 Pro, it doesn't use batteries or anything, just connects directly to your phone. So it's nice to be able to pass through and charge if you need to. So the controller, like I said, it easily connects to your phone via USB-C, and you can fit numerous phones from 4 inches to a bit over 7 inches. I'm using a smaller phone, the Google Pixel 6a, and it fits fine here. I don't think I found a mobile controller that you attach your phone directly to like this, where I could use my phone with a phone case attached, and that's the same thing here, unfortunately. Even a fairly thin, not bulky case, it just doesn't make the connection to USB-C. I tried a few different cases, nope, so yeah, keep that in mind. Maybe a skin-tight case will be okay, but I cannot guarantee it. Now, overall, the build quality is fairly nice. As far as how everything performs, if you're new to mobile gaming, you got to understand the layout and button size here is definitely going to be more smaller and cramped than a controller for consoles or PC. You kind of don't want these things to be unwieldy, so the smaller size kind of makes sense for this, setup. It may take a little getting used to, but overall, everything felt great and performed exactly as expected. Low latency as well. All the buttons and D-pad, they have like a very small amount of click to them, which does seem a little weird for me at first with the D-pad, but it actually worked out very well. Playing games like Street Fighter, I wasn't having any issues performing moves, doing them Hadoukens, all that good stuff. So that is a plus. Now, any emulator I used, I was either able to easily configure buttons, everything was recognized how it should be, And if a program had where it auto-configured based on the controller being used, this worked perfectly as well. It would just adjust to whichever configuration I set in the Gamesir app, Nintendo or Xbox. Now, using it for cloud gaming via Game Pass was awesome. You could also use this for Google Stadia if you still use that. But depending on your connection, you may have varied experience with game performance. But with a solid connection using Game Pass, things work great with this controller for me. Now, I do a lot of videos talk about emulation and gaming devices, and a lot of times I get comments saying, hey, just use your phone. I emulate on my phone all the time. And I just never really liked to and preferred having a dedicated device. But with a controller like this, I do feel like I'm more inclined to play the occasional emulated game on my phone or other games that I may be interested in. It works out great, I think. If you have gigantic hands, it may be fairly uncomfortable. If you got those baby man hands, it'll most likely feel great. Average man-sized hands, maybe it'll take a little getting used to. I found when using a controller, if I wasn't playing something that utilized the right analog stick, it was best to not use those stick covers, as my thumb would touch them quite often. With the covers off, it wasn't as much a problem, but definitely keep in mind, this is a smaller form factor than a typical controller, and the smaller amount of space is the trade-off you take. You want something that your phone attaches to and isn't like a unwieldy beast of a setup. I think it's fine. It's a decent option. I'm glad this revision addressed my main concerns with the previous model. So yeah, I digs it. I mean, I'm not having too much of an issue with this thing at all. Not really any issues that I could think of. You know, if you're into mobile gaming, yeah, I could highly recommend taking a look at the X2 Pro. I know there's a lot of options out there, a lot of different preferences, but right now, out of all the different ones I have used, hey, I think I do prefer the X2 Pro. So this, gaming controller for Android, it just released early September. It is available. I'll put, links to Amazon and whatnot out there. The price is, I believe, $80 at this time. Though a little pricey, but, so have plenty of the other options. When I first got the Razer Kishi, it was more expensive than that. But yeah, it's solid. Take a look. Appreciate you guys watching. And with that said, I will catch y'all next time. Bye.